It's all very sober. All very crotchety.
Yeah, I did this work facilitation thing today, so I was like, I've done a lot of talking today.
Well, that must
So
mean you're tired of talking and have no energy to do any of
you
it
know
today.
what? But I'm here, and showing up is half the battle.
I know you. You're a stalwart soldier of debate.
Here I'm gonna tweet, going live.
Yeah, do you guys want to give me a smiles?
Good.
We'll do a Mike. Oh, okay. We'll just leave Mike do what he does. It's good. We're good. We got it. I got the photo, I think.
Good. Going live on twitch.tv/goodbadbull.
I was gonna say I'm gonna tweet a thing out so you could retweet, but
oh well, then
Bo is an influencer on Twitter.
You know what? I'm gonna retweet Bo. I'm gonna amplify his message.
You could do
Maybe
both.
Oh, I'm in the middle of an Aeon article I got through Twitter, so I gotta finish that before I won't find it again.
Oh, there's this feature in your browser called a bookmark.
Is there? On Twitter? I'm not using my browser.
Well, you could. It links to a web link. You're not reading the article in Twitter.
Yeah. Well, it uses Twitter as a platform. Like, I don't think there's a bookmark.
There's a web address then if it's a link to something.
So I just gotta laugh here for a second because and I recognize that Core is the big show that Bo's on and that gets a lot of attention, but it is funny because I normally go on Twitter on my phone, so I went on it on the computer and you got Bo's profile pic on his profile page and it just says Core in huge big purple, like big black letters on purple background, and then underneath right off the first pinned tweet is like Core interview with blah 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 blah, and it's like and then I go down and then his next tweet down is another Core. I think it's a link to the Patreon, but it's exactly the same as his photo up top, like of the Core thing. It's like Core and all that. I'm just
and
going
like
down.
somewhere in his description it's like Bo's like, I also do a pity podcast with two of my
loser friends.
It's not about video games.
Oh my god. Right. It's just what people are following me there for.
It's true.
Oh no, I'm not. It's just go to it right now. It's pretty hilarious, actually, just how it's lined up right at this moment. Wait, but now there'll be a good bad one, and then I'll retweet it. You should be promoting Core.
Crofton? Did you listen to that MMA? This is that.
Oh no, of course not.
The whole. I heard because it was one of these. I love that show incidentally because it's like clear satire, but they always get people, so they're like, we had a lot of feedback from our show on Red Deer installing octagon cages in public parks or whatever, because I hadn't heard that one, but then I just started laughing at the concept to get children more active because it's a hilarious concept. And then they had all these people come up, they're like, you're getting kids to fight each other in parks to be active. This is fucking barbarism. But it was really funny because the interview was with this lady who was on the like Red Deer. She was a Red Deer city councilor or something like that. But it was pretty funny.
Well, it wasn't intended to be funny. It just happens to be funny. Is that
no? Like the show is satire, right? Like it's not a real show.
Dude,
no one is putting MMA octagons in public parks for children.
Oh, I thought it was.
But
legit.
It's played super straight, so it sounds like a regular.
Yeah.
You retweeted the live stream tweet from last week, and
but does the link still work?
Yeah, but it says we're recording 205 when in fact we're recording 206.
Nobody knows the numbers. Whatever. They'll be like, click on it.
But I made a picture of what we look like today. You're only as good as what you did 10 seconds ago on Twitter. It's important.
Oh, I saw the Crofton's retweet.
It's wrong.
You should retweet my retweet.
I'll retweet Bo's. Yeah, also, though, I'd just like to point out Crofton's not an influencer on Twitter, so it's okay.
It's true.
Don't start any battles tonight.
I like how you guys are both smiling. You guys have like
I thought it was a hilarious picture.
And I look like dejected.
I keep going to Bo's Twitter, but I don't see it.
Whatever.
It's on Good, Bad, and Bullshit. Feed. I tweeted it.
Oh, you're tweeting it on the account nobody follows. So I see. Let me check.
What? People follow that. Not a,
Yeah, now, Bo, don't you have to retweet it? You're like, no, I don't retweet good, bad, or bull stuff. It's not.
no,
Yeah,
I do all the time.
You're like, that's not what my people follow me for. I'm like, God damn it.
No, I retweet that all the time.
He'll
Even if it's just
laugh
for people to see our weird pictures.
But the picture makes me laugh
Hi,
because it's
Monica.
like Bo and Crofton looking happy, and I look like I'm having an existential crisis or something in the picture.
You look like
It's
you're on your
what's-
phone. Sorry.
What's it all about?
That looks like I'm on the toilet.
It looks like, what's this Aeon magazine article about on my phone?
Existential.
That's probably actually what's happening. Okay, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm not ready. All right. Yeah. So, oh wait, I gotta make sure the rehost. Yeah, we were rehosted by my Twitch. Cool. All right. Hi. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, you had
Hello.
a good stream, Monica. That's good.
I'm Crofton.
I was actually gonna stream tonight too, but then Mike had his meeting canceled, and we're doing a show.
Meeting. It was a CAT scan of my brain.
I didn't want to volunteer that information unless
Whatever.
you wanted to.
I like how
Doesn't mean
you
I'm dying yet.
I like how you replaced it with meeting though. Like like Bo's like, oh, don't say about CAT scan. What could somebody be possibly doing at this time of day? Meeting?
No one, yeah, band meeting. No one thinks about, no one thinks a meeting is a doctor's appointment. That was my
I tell you,
strategy
I
there.
was annoyed that they canceled this though, because well, first thing, I was expecting it to be booked in like January, because these things, my doctor was like, don't expect this to happen soon, and I was like, okay, and then they called me and it was like, oh, that's pretty quick, and then they canceled, and I was just like, oh, really? And then but now it's like booked on Tuesday or something, so it's not so bad.
If you guys want a good laugh, I also have a doctor's meeting next
What's yours
Wednesday
for?
morning for my treadmill test, and that's where the laugh comes
Treadmill.
from. It's gonna be me on a
Halfway through,
treadmill.
You're gonna be on the treadmill. It's like knock, knock, knock. I'm General Tao Chicken here. I was like, over here.
It's like 8:45 in the morning. I'm ordering Chinese food.
How much longer I got left, Doc? That just
They're like, it's been 2 seconds. Fuck.
I like also like when it comes in the door with the Chinese food, all the like sensors go beep 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 into
Because my heart rate goes up because it's monitoring me.
I like the concept that that's going to be the recurring joke, and we're all going to hit like 40 plus, where we start having colonoscopies or whatever, and then that'll be the thing. We'll be saying it for like 10 years. This Chinese food joke.
Oh, it would be like, honestly, it's already part of my ongoing narrative in my head. If my head is a sitcom, that is an ongoing joke where every time you're and when I thought of it in my own context, I laughed so hard. And Bo, I'll thank you till my dying day.
That
Which
joke-
point I'll have Chinese delivery in the in the room I'm in, because of how funny that story
Yeah,
is.
like if you ever have a second kid, then when you're going to deliver, wait.
Yeah, Crofton's gonna do that
Crofton's-
too.
Yeah, I don't know if that's public. That's why I kind of had a brain thing. Is it?
Oh yeah.
Is
yeah,
it public?
You walked on tippy toes, but no, it's okay. It's public.
Okay.
I'm having another
Yeah,
kid.
yeah. So when Crofton's about to deliver the baby, and it's at the most intense moment of drama, ding dong. I'm Chinese food for Crofton's team, and he only orders for himself.
Yeah, it's all-
And Jesse's screaming, and I'm like, I know you can't have MSG. How come?
yeah,
You know,
just eating in the background.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure.
You're like,
Yeah,
she's
well,
on
yeah,
drugs, right, Doc?
the-
She won't remember most of
The
this.
way I picture you eating is sitting there with your legs crossed, sitting sort of up and eating actively, and like approving what the doctor's doing. Like, you do a good job, doctor.
I
Keep-
will say
tell her
that
to
the
push.
thing I found the absolute funniest about the original pitch than when Bo told the story originally was that there was the hot paramedic, and that he was kind of trying to impress her a little bit, and that he's
I
like,
wasn't trying to impress her.
and then he's in the back of an
I just
ambulance, and
felt
he's got
humiliated.
his shirt open up, and he's like, "Hey, baby, how's it going?"
And EKG, and Chinese food arrives.
yeah,
What
the
are you guys
guy's like,
doing after your shift?
"What's the Chinese?"
But I
Get
would
Chinese
say
for
that
two.
is like That's like supreme confidence too. Like Bo would have, I believe Bo does have that much confidence. Like he's in the ambulance for some crisis, gets the Chinese food, and then like asks out the paramedic.
Honestly, the sex was the furthest thing from my mind at that time. Unfortunately.
No. Also, the furthest thing from her mind.
Well done. Well done. It's just because she was doing her job. That's why.
Yeah, that's right.
We were both
Okay.
caught up in our professional lives.
Hey, hi to those in the chat. Monica, Mike says she found this jam. It's called Crofters, and it made me think of you. She meant you, obviously.
She meant you.
What? How do you figure?
I think of that too. I have some Crofters jam that I have never opened in my pantry.
You're like, every time I go to open it, I think of Crofters.
I get a putrid taste in my mouth and I put it back on the shelf.
I hurl a little bit.
All right. We're gonna record a show. So chat room. Hi, Father Dante. We don't talk to the chat room while we're doing the show, so don't feel ignored. Just chat amongst yourselves. You're the audience.
Just
But you
be
are- just-
ignored.
Just to be
No.
clear, you are being ignored,
Yeah.
but don't feel that way.
It's not for ignoring purposes. It's for focus on a conversation.
We're making an audio product. We just happen to be live streaming it for your pleasure. So consider yourself
Live streaming for your pleasure.
Consider yourself pleasured. Okay, let's go. Let's go, Bo. My intro's gonna suck. I'm just ripping that Band-Aid off now. All right, here we go. Episode 206 records in 5, 4. Hello and welcome to the Good, Bad, or Bullshit podcast. 3 guys, unlimited opinion. The place where conversation is the foundation for higher thought. My name is Darth Bo, and joining me today is my Sith apprentice, Darth Michael. Hello, Darth Michael.
Darth Michael. That's kind of lame.
That's
Hello,
Darth.
my master.
And also joining us is this strange looking alien that calls himself Jar Jar Binks. Hello, Jar Jar.
Misa so happy. Misa love podcasts.
There's been a Jar Jar reference in like is this back-to-back episodes?
Possibly.
It was something like that.
You know, we should do seasonal good, bad, or bullshit drinking games and be like, okay, for this season, you guys drink whenever we do a bad Jar Jar Binks impersonation. Or
Is there really a bad Jar Jar Binks impersonation? They're all kind of good.
Hey, what'd you guys think of the Porg?
The
I'm
what?
Crofton, by the way.
Yeah,
That's
this is
my real-
Crofton Steers. That's Michael Hodgins. I'm Bo Schwartz, and we're about to talk about Porgs.
Oh, yeah. Porgs are the, you know, in that trailer for the
Oh, yeah.
Star Wars, it was that, you didn't see the trailer?
I saw the trailer. I was just too worried about them ruining and doing shitty stuff with Luke Skywalker.
It was the
that I
most
didn't give a shit
anxious
about the
2
Porg.
minutes of his life. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
so I'm so
I don't
anxious.
care about the porgs. There's always some dumb thing like that in a Star Wars movie. Who cares?
I know, but everybody's going nuts for the Porg.
Whatever.
And it's funny, all he does is do this one yell. I just think it's funny because, you know, you've got Chewie who's in the Millennium Falcon, and you might be thinking to yourself, geez, Han Solo's dead. Who are they going to replace him with? What type of character will it be? You know,
A penguin.
like will it be like dashing pilot from the first movie, Poe Dameron, or will it be some CG screaming Ewok? The
Yeah.
latter is true.
I instantly saw a picture of what's his face from Community, who's going to be playing Lando Calrissian in the new
Oh, Donald Glover, aka
Donald Glover. He
Childish
does look
Gambino.
like he does make a good Lando. I was like, yeah, I can see that.
Oh shit, I haven't seen that photo.
He looks. It's a recent one and it was like, is Woody Harrelson in that movie too? I was like,
Yeah,
Yeah. He plays Han Solo's like mentor or whatever. Incidentally, that movie's been titled. It's called Solo.
yeah. Some people are kind of shitting on that as a. I don't know. Whatever.
I shit on
The
it.
floodgates
What
have
a
opened.
terrible name for a movie. Solo. It's bad.
I just couldn't. I didn't realize it was Ron Howard. I did not know.
It wasn't him. The
okay.
director originally on it had creative differences, and I think got fired or left. in
Yeah, I
huff.
heard that too.
And so
They
Ron
left.
Howard's in there doing damage control. It's
was
not
too-
like a.
It was the two guys who did the Lego movie there, they've done a lot of sort of like comedic movies, and I think the studio felt it was going too comedic or whatever, and they brought in Ron Apollo 13 Howard.
Yeah, Ron Howard. I mean, he's got a pretty good track record, so we'll see. Hey,
Arrested
unrelated. I want to change the topic. We could talk about Star
Wait,
Wars forever.
well-
We already have.
Well,
But I actually want to ask a question to both of you guys that I want legit answers for.
Okay.
We always have the joke before every time we go to do one of these shows, Bo always is about to eat, and it takes like an hour and a half. And then I was thinking, I was
2
like,
hours.
yeah, a long time. And then I was like, what did Bo eat? And so I really want to know, Bo, what did you have for
I had
dinner?
like ramen noodles, and there's still pizza pops in the oven.
So you had
Okay, you
ramen-
want to have it out on the show? I
No,
have 2
I'm actually
hours before
curious.
we start recording, and I didn't know we were doing a show today because you had to have your brain scanned, and
Whoa.
and so I was like, no show tonight, take it easy. I got home, started working on actually post production on one of our episodes, and then I was like, oh, the call's in, we can do it. And I was like, scrambling. So, and then I don't keep groceries in the house.
Bo, there's no judgment. I just was curious. So ramen noodles and pizza pops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I
Bo,
only
Crofton,
ate half the ramen noodles.
what did you have for dinner?
I had pasta with sauce and
Like-
veggies.
Meat-based sauce,
No, just the sauce in the jar.
like tomato sauce.
Jar
Yeah,
sauce. He had jar sauce.
Jar sauce.
Is Jar Jar Binks? What do you think he's gonna eat?
Tomato sauce. Just question, because you guys tried to breeze over it and stuff like that, but like Bo's like, oh, you got to have your head scanned. But Mike, do you want to talk about your head scan? Because people are probably like, what the F is going on?
Oh, I had to have a CAT scan, or I still do have to have a CAT scan because I don't know, maybe I have a brain problem. I'm not sure. I have these like
That would explain so much.
a brain problem. Isn't there like an episode of Star Trek? Was it Star Trek: The Next Generation where some person became super smart because they had a brain tumor, and then they're like, if we remove the brain tumor, you'll lose all their smarts. Can't remember if that was from
That
Star Trek.
sounds
or
like a
not.
Star Trek episode, but
Anyways, and I'm like, what if
Sounds
that happens to
stupid.
me? They'll lobotomize me. No, I sometimes get this like I don't know, an aura. Like people get pre-migraines, they get something called an aura. So I get that sometimes, but I don't have a headache. So that's like, I don't know. So I got to go have a CAT scan. So hopefully, fingers crossed that I don't need to have a brain amputation or something, or a tumor. You never know. It's possible.
I just think that like I know what a CAT scan is, but maybe it's in the way that you say it. I just imagine this cat who is like just crawling across your brain, and then he just sits down because it's nice and warm, and it's like, and then next episode we're like, so Mike, how'd it go? And you're like, was good. Cat says I'm fine. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's good, I guess. We'll move on. But yeah, no, brain stuff is scary for sure.
Well, I mean, who knows? It's mostly, I think, a precaution because it's likely just kind of atypical migraine. But anyways, it's always interesting to be in the medical stuff.
Question: how soon is too soon to replace you on this show? Like, should we wait, until you're like
I think we
really
all
in the
know that
hospital?
I'm irreplaceable. I'd like to see your candidates.
Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Johnson. See you, Mike. Dun, 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 dun,
He's
dun,
too much
dun.
a host. You need a curmudgeon.
It's true. He's too nice.
He'd take over like the bow roll.
I don't know. Take
anyways,
over the
yeah.
mic roll.
Sorry,
I'd take over the mic roll as the smart, well-read one.
well-read
Wait,
one.
isn't that my rule?
Well, the question I was expecting to answer wasn't about my personal health problems, but it was I
You
had
shouldn't have brought
stew.
him up.
I had stew for dinner.
Ooh.
It's great.
Reheated. It was leftover stew, but it was a good stew.
Oh my god,
Whenever
this is like questionception.
whenever-
I forgot about that part.
The what?
This was questionception because I forgot that you asked what we were eating.
Well, I was actually curious, and then I was like, "Oh, what did we all eat today?" I always associate Crofton with just eating pasta with sauce as well, so it's funny that
It's
he ate
basically the closest. It's like pizza, but not in pizza shape. Basically,
Yeah, it's like it's still
like grain,
carbs with
tomato sauce and cheese.
And when I said there were veggies with it, that was a lie.
You liar! Why? I wanted an honest answer. Bo was honest. He said ramen noodles
I
and
know.
pizza
But Bo-
pops. No one would admit to that.
I didn't eat the
Bo was
pizza pops.
brutally honest.
They're still in the oven, just freezing now.
So I will say though that I did like how you're like, no, we need to stay on task about what we had for supper. Oh, by the way, I may have a crippling health problem, but let's just keep talking about the supper food. I'm like,
Well,
so yeah.
well, when I
Anyway.
went to see my doctor, she was like, "Well, you have the appearance of a healthy person." I'm like, "Great, that's the main thing."
Well, that's that
On the
settled.
outside, it looks good.
No, like when she did some other tests about, they can do other sort of things to see if your brain is working properly. But anyways, then you get blood tests, CAT scan, EKG, all this stuff, and then I'll find out who knows what.
You do realize if you do have a brain problem, I'm going to bring it up all the time in picking apart your opinions on this show.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll be like,
And then I'll
yeah.
be like, but then I'll just say, but Crofton, I have a brain problem, and I'm still smarter than you. So what does that say?
All right. Speaking of brain problems, it's time. It's time to pick a random topic and attempt to talk about it. All right. You ready, Mike? Let's go.
Yeah.
We're like 8 minutes in. 10 people have stopped listening. The other 10 are still here. All right. Let's go. Let's go.
The topic today are placement agencies.
Placement agencies.
I find
a job.
this is an interesting topic. Just like because I
Job
think
placement, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I thought anyway. Like the
Yeah.
employment agencies, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Place you in a job, I guess. Yeah, that does need to be said.
you know what was my first exposure to placement agencies was this video game, surprise, that I played when I was a kid called Jones in the Fast Lane, and it was essentially a board game, a virtual board game about keeping up with the Joneses, and so you would play out a week, and each turn was a week, and like your marbles moved around the board, and you could get jobs and stuff. But instead of going to the places where you would get the jobs, like taking your marble and going to McDonald's or going to the factory or going wherever on the board, you had to go to the employment agency. And as a kid playing this game, I didn't understand that. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, why wouldn't I just go to the place that offers the job to get that job? But as an adult, I'm starting to understand how it works a lot more. Like, I have a little bit of experience with placement agencies, but I don't think as much as either of you guys.
I've had a fair
Well, I have to send it to Bo, right? 'Cause I don't think I have ever used a placement agency.
Yeah,
I don't-
I've actually used them quite extensively, I'd say.
Well, then you better start us off because I don't
Okay.
think I might have gone into one once, but I certainly never got a job through one.
So when I was a young man, I'm like, oh, here we go. You know, the whole idea about finding a job was go walk around, knock on people's doors, and say, hey, I'm a person looking for a job, and here's a piece of paper with all my stuff on it. Can you hire me? But then at a certain point, you kind of realize, I mean, that works for your grocery store, or maybe the guy who's shoveling in the quarry. You walk to the quarry and help him out, but it's hard to know where to go and what opportunities are out there. So one of the ways that you can do that is a person whose professional life is connecting job seekers with employers, and that's what placement agencies does. And it's kind of like the internet before the internet. We have the internet now, which has its own services. This is more personable. Even though you have the internet's highly impersonal. Things are done in the aggregate. So you can put a job posting out there and get 1,000 applicants. And that's actually, I think if you're an employer, a worse problem than having no applicants, because now you've just created a bunch of work for yourself. So I think what ideally a recruiter or job placement agency, that kind of thing, is going to know who their workers are, know who their employer clients are, and try and match them up as best as possible and get people employment in areas that, match, for lack of a better word. It's almost like eHarmony in real life. You're Cupid for jobs.
But they take like half of your salary, right?
Okay, well, hang on. There's a few things. There's a few things that happen here, to my knowledge. So I've been on both sides of the relationship with the recruiter. So if you get placed in a permanent position, what they'll typically do, like let's say I want, I don't know, what kind of business am I in? Let's say I operate a salt mine and I need a salt miner, and how much you gonna pay that salt miner? Well, we're gonna pay him $60,000 a year, let's say, to salt mine.
Sweet.
But I can't find salt miners because they come from all around the world. You can't just hire them in the local town. Not any Yahoo can mine salt. You can mine any old rock, but salt is special.
Hodgins will do it.
So, well, he might not live in the town nearby in Dildo, Newfoundland, and
Plus,
so
he's got brain problems.
so. Let's not make fun of him for that, okay? It's serious. Anyways, so I'm gonna pay him $60,000. So the recruiter says, "Let me do my magic. If I hire somebody, I'm gonna send you some people to interview. Person you hire, you give me 20% of their annual wage as a finder's fee. I'll guarantee them for 6 months, which means if they don't work out, maybe we'll replace them with someone else. But basically." So on $60,000, what is 20%? $60,000.
Nobody told me there'd be math.
It's 12. That's $12,000. That's a good fee. That's almost as bad as realtors, but it's
Almost.
it's this is very important. It's very expensive to hire, to fire. It's very time consuming. You lose business if your people that you hire are not producing for you. There could be training time. Salt mines, you don't just pick up on day one and are good at it. You need a couple months to really get going. So they come with sort of a guarantee, a personal touch, and they get $12,000 for this expertise. The other thing they do is staffing placement, which is the thing probably most people are thinking of, which is, well, we can't find a qualified salt miner, but what if we got you some Yahoo and you charge them, I'll charge you $20 an hour. And that's like a lot less. And then what the recruiter does is whoever I send in, you take, and we'll guarantee they'll be good or good enough. So you pay them $20 an hour, and the recruiter turns around and pays them $5 an hour or something like that, or $8. His minimum wage is a lot higher here, so let's just say it's I think it's $11.50 right now. So then they take a percentage of your hourly wage. And those are the two primary services that I'm familiar with that recruiters offer, which is like headhunting good people or staffing bodies, usually for less qualified positions.
So the thing is like, I could understand where people would begrudge recruiters a lot of stuff, because you'd be frustrated if A, the recruiter doesn't find you a job, B, the recruiter finds you a job but then takes a giant portion of your paycheck, or C, if the recruiter gets in the way after you've started a job of you becoming permanently staffed by that organization, or maybe the organization doesn't staff you because of the stupid agency wanting a cut or something like that. Like, I can understand all those things as being super frustrating, but at the same time it feels like if you're screwed and you need to find a job quick, and like somebody that has a lot of connections and you're willing to work in a field and you say new in town, and like that they provide, like I use a term, I guess, necessary evil. Yes, it's possible to get jobs through contacts and friends and other ways, but if you don't necessarily have a bunch of those, or a network set up, or you're just getting started, like it feels like, I mean, they're a tool that sucks to use sometimes. Sucks that you have to give them a big chunk of money, but you wouldn't even have any money if you didn't get their help to begin with. Is that safe to say? Like,
you also said, Bo, that you were on both ends of this. Like, so when you, because like if you're hiring someone, is it that you basically are outsourcing the whole hiring process, which can be
a big value add for a recruiter is at scale. So if you are I mean, it doesn't matter what size, but if the cost of maintaining your own recruitment team in-house and purchasing all those technologies and techniques that they use to maintain a database of personnel for hire, it's cheaper to outsource it if and when you need it. That way I'm only paying for the service when I'm hiring people. I'm not paying salaries to recruiters internally if I'm, say, IBM. Maybe IBM does that. Like, I think really large companies invest in their own recruitment and probably partner, and it's probably quite complex. But definitely in the situation I worked in, we had none of that internally, but we were, it was a national provider. We needed service. We needed assistance and expertise. And meeting people straight off the internet, it's a non-starter. You want some reasonable assurance that people have been vetted and some time's been spent looking at them. So there is value in that. And 20% of a salary sounds like a lot, but the business might have a staff of my salt mine might have 100 salt mine workers. And 10% is a very small percentage of my labor budget. So it's affordable.
But you also wouldn't have to necessarily compensate them even in the same manner that you would compensate regular employees. And we live in a government town where the main employer is government. To get into the government in a permanent way, you need to go through a bunch of hoops of job competitions and language testing and this and that and the other thing. When urgent staffing is needed, the placement going through an employment agency, the employment agency is seen as the employer of that person. So that person is employed by the employment agency, and the government is just, or a company is just hiring said employment agency, like they would a contractor for fixing their printers or whatever, for a finite period of time. And so what that means is that the benefits due to the employee would be the benefits of the employment agency and not necessarily the benefits of an employer. So like I've seen companies that have said, we pay on average our employees X amount of money, like $70,000 a money. $70,000 a year. And then it turns out that in fact half the floor are placement agency workers that are paid $30,000 a year, right? But they don't count as employees. They don't get health benefits. They don't get any of this stuff because they're sort of like, backdoor and supposedly for temporary periods of time. But often those temporary periods get longer and longer and longer. The cost of paying the placement agency is just cost of business or whatever, and it's just worked in. And then new people are brought in and all that. So there's a certain amount of disposableness to the employees in that structure, I find.
Well, it could. I mean, so I understand, when we're in a bubble of a government town that has a really kind of crazy way of hiring people in the sense that it takes a very long time. Because if you were a private industry person, because I could look at it this way, and you wanted to hire people, and it can cost a lot of money to hire people. I mean, again, another Canadian government statistic, but I knew an HR person who told me it costs about $100,000 to hire a person in the government, which is a disgusting amount of money to see spent to hire someone, right? So if I was a private company that wasn't bound by the same, and in the government, they're never going to hire somebody permanently through one of these agencies. It's always be temp. But that's not necessarily true for a private sector thing. In the private sector, you might say okay, I need people. It costs a lot of money to do all this vetting. Hire a placement agency. You get a bunch of people in, you get them working, you're kind of rolling, and then you might feel after a year or 6 months of having these people, then you might say okay, these 10 are awesome. Let's just hire them. After the term's up, because we're private sector, we do whatever we want. We'll hire them because they're good. Done. And now you've saved all that money in the hiring process. And then the ones that are no good, you just say term's up, whatever. We don't need you guys. And then, so I could see the huge advantage of using a placement agency if you're in the private sector and you're not bound by these hiring protocols as a way to get people fast and save money. It seems efficient in that sense.
It just seems again, I go back to the term necessary evil in the sense it makes it sound like they're evil, but it's just the idea that everybody uses them on not on the hiring end, like the employer end, but on the employee end is likely to be dissatisfied in some regard because they're, and I went through some of the reasons of why that could be. But like as soon as you have somebody taking a cut of your money, think of how many people are pissed off at taxes they pay, right? I understand the benefits, but I also understand uh, why people get genuinely pissed off. At these things, because I tell you, I know a ton of people who have railed against placement agencies, and they're being like, oh, they want to get in as a permanent employee, be it a government or a company, and they're unable to, but yet they're pulling in a check from the placement agencies. Like they are getting something, but they're treated like shit. They're not getting, they're waiting for their next phone call. They only find out if their contract's going to be renewed last minute. They've got to do their timesheets and all this and get them signed and send them into the agency. Like the agency doesn't build any goodwill with the person. Like, yes, they may end up being the person, the institution that enables them to get a sweet long-term career job. But, like people don't seem to appreciate that part of it. They're just like, screw this group that takes money from me and like controls my fate,
Well, yeah. So, are you saying, are you pro the fact that placement agencies try to form relationships? Because I've had good experiences.
I'm just
also
saying
bad
that
ones.
I understand why people. I haven't met very many people who speak positively of placement agencies from the hiring angle, even if they've started their careers or gotten jobs through placement agencies. They seem like people are. They're like that's why I drew the comparison to the tax man. They just seem genuinely dissatisfied, and so that's why I say people use them like a necessary evil as opposed to like being like, oh wow, this placement agency really helped me out, and we worked together, and now I've started my career, and thanks a lot, placement agency. Nobody seems to be like that.
Yeah. I had an interesting interaction on the negative side with a placement agency, and it's like, this placement agency's policies were statutory holidays. Okay, so let's say there's a statutory holiday on a Monday. The rule is I got to work the Friday before and the Tuesday after a statutory holiday to be paid for the statutory holiday. Let's say it's Canada Day. If I call in sick, I think even if I take a vacation, if I don't work on one of those days, I don't get paid. So this happened to me. I don't get the statutory pay. And this happened to me, and I had either forgotten or I didn't know what was going on. And I called them, and I said, can you please pay me my statutory pay? You pay me minimum wage, and when you signed the contract for a year for me working on this place, you budgeted that I be paid all my statutory holidays. And you can't tell me that one sick day should take that away. And they said, well, in Ontario, the minimum requirement that the law states is we don't have to pay you for the Friday. If we don't have to do this. Like if you don't work either one of those days, then we don't have to pay you. And I was like, yeah, that's what the minimum says. But you're going to pay me my day, right? Because they're like, well, no, the minimum says that. I'm like, just because something's a minimum doesn't mean you have to do it. It's not the policy. It's a minimum requirement. And they tried to shit me around on not paying me my stat holiday. I said, look, I'm a good worker. Maybe you're allowed to not pay me. Are you going to be a dick about it? Like, you should just give me my money. And they gave me my money. Like, and I was just like,
good for you, Bo.
And it was like, it's for minimum wage. What is it, like $50 that I started a big argument with them for. But
well, good for you though.
But like, this is the kind of shit that earns them a bad reputation, which is like, they are doing the minimum. And rather than say, look, employee, we're only doing the minimum for you, they hide behind bullshit, corporate speak or well, the policy of law. And like most of the people that work at recruiters, they're not as good or qualified in many cases as the people they're actually hiring, or they'd be working at other places for the most part. So that's what earns them a bad rap are stories like that.
That's really interesting, actually. And it made me think that, like, why what they're doing there is they're pissing Bo off, essentially. And, like, they actually caved to him, which is great. But, like, if they didn't or whatever, it would be like, in their minds, their employees are disposable, because if you're a corporation or you're building a corporate culture, you're trying to get people to subscribe to your value system, maybe, and we're government, and there's a certain culture there. You want your employees to be motivated, to be involved, to be implicated. Um, in a placement agency, again, going back to my disposable thing, it's like they know that what they're there for. They're there to help get you started in your career, or then you're going to leave. Like, you're not going to stay with them long term. So why do they care if you like them? They just care about you making them the most money for the time that you're there, and know that it doesn't matter how nice they are to you. Odds are you are gonna leave one way or another, because your intention is never to be a career placement agency person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds right to me. Like, it's, they know they're only going to get the work out of you until you find something more gainful. But the fact is that they have opportunities that they can give you long term. So building up a good rapport with a placement agency is kind of good if you're looking for a deeper career. Not in the public service. I'm pretty sure it's probably true in the States as it is here, because not even God can help you get through entering into the public workforce. But for private sector jobs, it's, they've been a key instrument in most of my private sector jobs, including when I worked for CCTS. I did recruitment dirt shit jobs for a while, and then when that came up, they thought of me and they placed me somewhere, and I worked directly for them. So, it's kind of a stepping stone. I think you get out of it what you put into it, but you do have to do a bit of networking. It helps to go to them and be personable and try not to be a dick to them. Unless, again, you're applying for work with the public service, in which case even networking with God will not help you get it. So you can be as much of a dick as you want. It's all about what's fair in the rules.
But I mean, why these things exist? Like, my experience with them is very minimal, in that I think I can't remember when, in my mid-20s or something, I came to a point where, like, I needed a job, and I felt all stressed about it, as most people do. You need to get a job. So I think I went into one, I put my resume in, and then something, I got lucky, something came along, and I got some other job. I don't even remember what it was. It may have been the job that you helped me get, Crofton, in the government, short term, through a contract, which was better. I can't remember which. But the point is, I do remember before, but I got lucky, and I really acknowledge that. Someone's like, "Oh, I know someone looking to get your job," and then through someone else I knew, I ended up getting a decent job in the government, which is a good place to be working. But there was a moment where I felt quite stressed about money. I had none, and I didn't see any coming. And I was applying for jobs, and a lot of the good jobs take a year to get. And so I'm like, fuck, I need employment now. And so it came along. But I mean, a lot of people are in these positions in some points in their lives where you need to get something quick. You look around online, there's only garbage jobs, which aren't going to lead you. I mean, I shouldn't say garbage jobs, but like menial jobs. And if you're aiming to, you just say you got an education in a university and you're trying to get something in some kind of office setting to build experience, you need something. It can be hard and take a while, and you need so it makes sense that there are places to go. So I think that they bank on that. I mean the thing that they trade on is people who need. I don't want to say are desperate for work, but look, a lot of people are desperate. There's points I felt desperate for work when I went in there. I'm like, I need this. I need something. Yeah. And they can help you. So they know that, so they can exploit you. When you were talking earlier about like you're disposable to them, you're not, so they can treat you a bit like crap for two reasons. One, you're not going to stay, and two, they know you need something, so they're going to be like, yeah, here's something. You're going to be like, okay, at least I got meal on the table for now. But the interesting thing about all this is that I mean, the trend these days, and again, we mentioned we live in a bubble of a city with a lot of people who have good salaried benefit jobs, but those, let's face it, are on the huge decline. And yeah, I know Crofton put it out himself. It's a privilege to have those jobs. I'm one of those people. And Bo maybe soon too. But the thing is that in general people are going, they call it the precariat, right, where everyone is working contract jobs for set periods of time, so that the job search phases in your life are going to be periodic and like frequent, periodic, and those things are stressful. Like it's stressful to not to be without a work, having rent to pay, having bills to pay, and just like looking on job searches and trying to submit through some company, and it might take months to get through, and meanwhile so like if you put your hat in with a placement agency, even though the deal for you is not that good, it's like a life support system, and to me they're only going to become more necessary as good employment, secure employment, with benefits and whatever, continues to decline. I can't see these things going away. The only thing I'll put forward before I'm done this little rant is that I also kind of don't see why these whole things haven't been replaced with a technology platform. Like, I'm kind of shocked that there's not just like an Airbnb style app, because like job search sites are not that. They're basically classifieds. But I'm kind of shocked that there's not a better.
Well, I guess like LinkedIn is probably the best we
LinkedIn
have.
sucks, man. Everyone
I
knows
made
that.
a big stink on
No,
it. I made a big
there's
stink on social media about closing my LinkedIn account, and I actually got a lot of responses like, "Really? It's like important." I'm like, "It's it's internet vomit. It's like it's the worst." LinkedIn is like
You guys
the
like
worst
to
site.
shit on all these social media platforms, but LinkedIn has been really good for like direct hires and headhunting and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I
like
guess
it
so,
has its
but
place
like
if you
not
have like
for
a
people
crazy
like me.
awesome.
Sorry, I was just gonna
Sorry,
say
Bob.
not for people like I can't use it. It's horrible. Like I'll never use that to find a job.
So just to off of Mike's point, my experience with placement agency, which I think is notable at how different it is, but I think what it does is provides a little bit of a light on the fact. I don't want to see the moral scruples, because I don't want to cast it so villainously in the sense that they just want to make money. Everybody knows that, but like, so I'm working a job for the government. The government has a law that it essentially can only offer me a 90 working day contract without doing the whole hiring shebang, which they were planning on doing. But that meant that there was a big gap because it takes them so long to do that. So I worked the 90 days, and near the end they're like, shit, okay, so we need you to go to this placement agency downstairs and tell them like that they're going to get a call looking for an employee that has XYZ skill and whose name starts with C, if you know what I'm saying. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're going to hire me through this placement agency? Oh, no, we can't do that. We're just going to ask for a couple of CVs, if you know what I'm saying. I'm like, I'll just go downstairs. So I go down to the placement agency, and I say, yeah, you're going to get a call, likely looking for a position, looking for a person, but they're looking for me is essentially what it is. So they're like, okay, we get what you're saying. Wink, wink. And I'm like, okay, I feel really dirty right now. And then of course, they get the call, and then they sit down, and I of course have been being paid X amount for the first 90 days when I was working, this job directly for the employer. And then they're like, okay, we're going to pay you X, Y amount. And they're going to take their cut. And I'm like, wait, whoa. I said, I brought you this contract. Like, you would not have even been offered this if I wasn't coming in your door saying you were going to get this call. I made this happen. And so we got into like a negotiation. Well, we could take less of a cut than we normally do. And I'm like, yeah, otherwise I'm just going to bring it somewhere else, and they're going to cancel the contract. So it was like they took 5%, I think, which is not much. And I jacked it up on my employer as well. So they had to pay me more. So I was getting more actually through the agency than I had been previously. But just their like the ability to do that, the whole thing, it still to this day sticks with me as like, not playing by the rules, sort of like being like, okay, we don't care. Like we just want to make we just want to make money. Like he came in, he's bringing us this contract. We're going to work with him, whatever, blah blah blah. So it's not. I'm not saying it's their fault. It's or the employer's fault. It's just felt skeezy, and I just associate placement agencies with like trying to make a quick buck off of human toil for right or wrong.
It's funny though, because that story you could look at it the exact opposite way. Because when you're telling it, it sounded like the government is the idiot in the picture who's like,
Oh,
we want to hire
absolutely.
you, but we cannot because of all these mountains of policy. And then so you have a problem now because they want to keep you. That they have that problem. You want to stay there. You have that problem, and the only person who can solve it is a placement agency. And like, yes, it is annoying for them to have it drop into their lap, but like they know the deal, right? The government can't hire you. You can't keep working there, but they're like, whatever, we'll be your intermediary. Like I mean, if I was them, I'd be like, yeah, 20%, and then you're gonna be, you negotiated, rightly so, be like, look, I brought you this, I go to another one, and they all probably would have played the same game to some extent, so you negotiated, sounded like pretty good thing for yourself in the end, but really it was like they were the solution to a problem your employer had and a problem you had, which ultimately led to your benefit, right?
So absolutely, absolutely, that is exactly why my point from the beginning stands in the sense that I don't feel good about that. I don't have good, warm, fuzzy feelings about this placement agency coming to my rescue and helping me out, right? So
But do you
that's
have
it.
good, warm, fuzzy feelings towards the government for being dumb and not able to hire
No,
you?
no, I totally was really pissed about that situation with them. Obviously, they're
Yeah.
really easy to be angry at in that situation, right? But like what I'm saying is when I go back to the necessary evil, nobody on the employee side walks away feeling great about their dealings with a placement agency. So that's my point. Again, here with this, it's like, yes, what you're saying is absolutely true. And almost any way you frame dealings with placement agencies, you can spin to the positive. You can be like, well, Bo, they canceled 3 contracts with you, they jerked you around or whatever, but then eventually you get your CCTS job, which has led into a career, right? So in a way, your career started with them, but like your feelings towards the placement agency that even started you on your career might be like, screw them, they screwed me a whole bunch of times, or they didn't compensate me correctly, or people just have negative feelings, and I have negative feelings from my one experience, which, as Mike points out, could totally be perceived in a positive way, but most people don't look at it that way, for
Yeah,
better or for
yeah,
worse. And I'm not
yeah.
necessarily saying it's a placement agency's fault.
And it's not everyone's in a situation where they're dealing with placement agency where their income is okay, right? Like, even a lot of people who are well placed and are used to making a higher salary still have mortgages and kids to raise, and money needs to go out and come in, and that's important. And when you start running dry on funds and people, there's no incentive, there's no public good. And I think this is where I wanted to kind of take at least some of the conversation about not just the state of what placement agencies are today, but what it means for us as a society. Like no employer has to hire you. And so recruitment agencies, they're profit driven. This is the important, like, they're not benevolent. I think we've covered that here. They're profit driven. So if you're a worker who's not going to be reliable in any sense, you're a loss. And so you're not worthy of help. And like, the more conservative side of me is like, well, that's just how the world works. You got to be of value to have people want you. Like, grow up, strap on your boots. But there's like a fundamental flaw in that thinking, because recruiters are only going to value you for where they see value. So if in your 40s you want to pivot career wise, let's say you've been a salt miner all your life and now you want to get into IT, it won't happen.
No, cobalt mining.
Okay,
bro.
if you want to get into cobalt mining, it won't happen. It's too late. You don't have the training and required certifications. Take decades to become a cobalt miner. And so any recruiter you go to is only going to value you for where they can place you, which is customer service jobs, janitorial jobs, or salt mining, which you're freaking sick of, but is the only industry you can make money in. So they're not incentivized to help you pivot or do the career change. And I just feel like that's fundamentally a problem, because we do perceive placement agencies as the people that are supposed to be there to help us. Now, really, learning institutions are supposed to do that, but they're failing us. I mean, we talked about the education system a lot. So I kind of feel like placement agencies, they have no obligation to help our country's workforce be any better. They're just there to turn a profit. You're turning tricks. And I feel like that's fundamentally flawed when we have a country where we want to make sure our workers are developed, have skilled jobs. We kind of lay it all at the feet of school, but a lot of our most important learning happens in the employments that we get and the work that we do with our lives. So if you're someone that needs a job, kind of makes sense that that onus should be on recruiters to help develop workforce, and if someone wants to pivot, to help develop the worker in that direction. But I don't think a profit-driven company will ever be incentivized to do that. So when Mike was like, "Why is there no centralized internet service? Is there no way to do this?" That's my thinking, is that placement, job placement, decisions about career, if not a government service, should be a publicly funded community service that we all invest in and benefit from. Because giving it to private entities they're just there to make money. They're just there to get their grubby little hands and do the networking thing and make money. Kind of like how realtors do it. They know people selling houses, they know clients. If the clients and sellers can manage to connect without them, the realtor makes no money. And but I think careers are really important, where houses, I don't know, maybe you could argue that that's not needed. So that's where my head is. I don't know if that makes you think of anything,
but it's interesting because you I agree with a lot of your points. Largely, I'm on the same page. The place where I have a bit of a sticking point is that but that's the whole basis of our economy.
Sure.
The whole basis of our society is this profit-driven motive, in the sense that for most companies are just they don't really care who they hire. I mean, especially the low-hanging fruit jobs of call center work, which I've done some call center work. They don't. Whoever runs a call center makes money by having bums in chairs calling people all day, whether it's to sell credit cards or do surveys, doesn't matter. They don't care about you. They don't care who does it. They just need someone to do it. So they don't care about you either. So there's get a placement agency. We need a bunch of people. Placement agencies we don't care about people either. We'll take, but that's how it all works. And it's sure, there are better jobs, but ultimately it's if you're an employer, you don't care about anybody, period. You care about someone to perform X function, and I don't care if it's candidate XYZ. If they're all qualified, throw a dart at the wall, really.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the nature of work. That's the nature of being in a job market. I hate that it's called that, but it really is. I mean, there's a job out there there's 100 jobs that any of us may be good at, but no one employer cares about you as an individual. They just care about having the service fulfilled. If you do that properly, they'll pay you, and a good employer will give you other added benefits. But ultimately, if you leave, they don't really care. We'll get someone else. So I mean, it's all like that. And if in a placement agency, they're just part of that chain. They're well, these people, they don't care about people. They just want service. They just want functions fulfilled. And the placement agency is just well, we have people who need employment and these people who need functions fulfilled. Let's just plug them in and take a little cut off the top. That's our service. To me, that's just what everything is. So I agree with you, Bo, in the sense that I'm yeah, I wish our society didn't function like that. It does. I think it's kind of crappy, except for you can find all these little pockets here and there where it's not like that, but mostly it is.
Yeah.
So I just feel like they're just playing the game same as everyone else.
Yeah. With my customer service background and my manager background, I've gone to a few recruiters and sat down and had that let's meet your manager. Let's see what you're going. But post long hair Bo, remember when I used to be short hair, look conformist kind of Bo? And I'm pretty sure hey, this is a highly saleable manager. Let's bring him in to the recruitment agency. And then they meet me and they're I can't pitch this to anybody based on physical appraisal. And I know it's happening. So I think that
See,
I think that's part of it too. It's
just before rolling into verdicts, the one other thing that I find, and I'm thinking about my experience from earlier as well in this, is like, so we're in a government town, but most major corporations like the Microsofts, the Googles, all of these places, they have onerous hiring processes. Like, it's not just government; it's in a lot of places. Organizations do big.
Yeah, but like these pieces are not the massive employers. Like the retail sector dwarfs them, right? The service sector dwarfs them. They're a narrow. Tech companies are great, and everyone's like, oh yeah, go work for Google. It's like not that many people work for Google. Way more work for McDonald's. Like McDonald's is a mass employer. Starbucks is a mass employer. Service and retail are mass employers, and any of these tech, like I'm not disagreeing that they have onerous hiring process, but they're a niche. They're looking for highly skilled, small group of individuals, and that's just not accessible to most of us.
Yeah, I hadn't gotten really to my point yet, which was that there's a lot of organizations that have onerous hiring processes across the board. My question is, do placement agencies, like if placement agencies didn't exist, would it force these other organizations to have more expedient hiring processes? Do they rely on the fact that these agencies exist to have shitty ones, or to be able to like, well, we don't need to do a fast hire, because if we did have to do a fast hire, we would use this employment agency. So we'll just do these super comprehensive, really long, take forever, multi-stage hires, because we can. Those will get us our big staff long term, and for shorter hires we have the placement agencies. Whereas if the placement agencies did not exist, wouldn't they be forced to do a better job hiring themselves?
Well, I mean, so I don't know too much about this, but there's one of the tech companies in Ottawa, Shopify, which is just like growing. Everyone's like, oh, Shopify and all this stuff. So my wife's friends with the guy who is a recruiter for Shopify. So they do their own recruiting. And it sounds like, from what he was telling her, that it's not onerous really, in the sense that like people put in their CVs, and if it's so they do their own hiring, but it's not convoluted in the sense that it's like, okay, you have, you're looking for a job as a developer there or something like that. It's like, okay, yeah, you have this experience. He meets with you. He likes the cut of your jib, basically. So you meet the tech qualifications, and then it's like he just has a sense of what the people they have are, and then if you fit in well with their, or you provide something that they don't have, like say you might speak Spanish and they don't have anyone to speak Spanish, and he's like, well, I'll just hire that you then, and they just do it because they're not constrained by giant policy things. They're a fast moving company, so they move quick, but they also have enough money that they have their own people doing it, right? Like I don't know that I think Shopify, certainly when they're starting up, did use recruitment agencies and does to get going, but like probably again it's just to get some people in there, and then they shed the ones who are no good and keep the ones who aren't. So like, will it force them to do it better? Like if they didn't exist, I don't know. Again, I think they're mostly catering to that low-hanging fruit job, the call centers, the just like that crappy office work. And I mean, a lot of the temp stuff, even in the government, that gets filled by these is administrative, which is the very like, okay, we need you to photocopy this stuff. It's the menial work of office people that gets temped out through these places, which again, they're like, we don't care who does our photocopying or books these meetings. We just need someone to do it. And temp person's like, well, I got this person who needs a damn paycheck, and they'll do your photocopy. Okay, great, send them in, done. So like, if they didn't exist, would it make that person hire their admin person with more thought and care? I don't know. Ultimately, they just want someone to do the thing. They're constrained, so they're looking for a way around it. I think that these place managers fulfill a need. That's why they exist, right? And I mean, I would agree with having the broader conversation about like, why is this need there? How else should society be structured differently or better? But I mean, that's a broader conversation than this here.
Yeah,
I guess I guess it is, but again, like we've been in a lot of other topics where you guys have pushed that conversation
Oh,
and
I'm
said that.
happy to talk more about
Well,
that.
no, I'm not. I'm not saying do it because we've already spent a lot of time on this topic. I'm just saying that like there's been a lot of change the world type conversations on this podcast, not being constrained by, well, that's just how it is. There's a need there, and this is how it works. And I feel like it's funny because I feel like me of all people have been the most negative on the placement agencies, and we'll see how verdicts land. I think we'll all be probably in the same ballpark, but at the same point, um, I do think like the placement. I do agree with what you're saying about the low hanging fruit in many regards in the types of jobs. I think there's different types of placement agencies and some that cater to more professional work. I do think that when people reach a certain stage in their career, they might incorporate themselves or become consultants in that and move out of that sphere as well. So, but that said, I guess I'm ready to roll into verdicts. You guys?
Yeah,
Sure.
I think I'm about there. I mean, it's a big topic.
Feels like we've been on this for a long time now.
All right,
Sort of.
let's bring in the farm out. Well, remember we spent 10 minutes on what we ate for dinner.
Food and my brain problems.
All right, here come the farm animals. They're on their way in. Where are they?
Order, I say. Order in the court.
I'll
right.
go first.
Oh, okay. I have to go before the end though, because I'm the host.
I really want to come down negatively on this topic big time, just because but I realized why, and I was sort of transparent with it early on by saying how I see them as necessary evils, placement agencies. And I see them as they do provide a service, but I don't necessarily think that they care about people. In fact, I definitely think that they do not, which is funny because they traffic in people. They they facilitate the hiring process, but they have nothing to do with the actual work being done. So the person that is hired through a placement agency, wherever they're hired at, they may be having a great experience where they feel like they're treated like a person and they get along well with their colleagues. They might be having a horrible experience. The placement agency has no say in any of that. The placement agency just places them. They are a middleman. They take a cut. And my feeling generally about middlemen that take cuts is negative, because I would like to see people just making connections on all levels without the need for a middleman. But the reality is, as these guys have said, and it's true, is that we don't live in a world where that's the case. Like, people need the middleman for multiple reasons. They could be new in town. They could be at the end of the rope. They could just need access to a network. They could just be starting in their career. There's a zillion reasons, and employment agencies provide options for these folks, many of which could lead them down the path to like full-time careers. So there's a lot that you could spin positively. And when Mike took my story earlier and spanned it positively, you can do that with almost any placement agency story. But yet most people don't feel positive about placement agencies. And why is that? It's because they resent the middleman. And I get that. I'm one of those people. So for all those reasons, I'm going to say that placement agencies are bullshit. Bullshit.
No, where's the bullshit button?
I'm going to say it again. Bullshit.
All right, there we go. I'm going up next. All right. So I've had a lot of experience with them. I think we can do better as a society. I think the fact that these are profit-driven opportunists that we've grown to rely on is no indication that they're actually of any true societal value. I just think that, like all businesses, they're going to look at, is it cost effective or isn't it? And generally speaking, we live in a services-based world. Many businesses operate through partnership with other services because it's cheaper to rent out certain things than to just have it all in house. And that seems like kind of common sense, but I think the key thing here with employment is that it matters a lot to the people. And this is about quality of living for everyone. And, for us as Canadians, it's important. And I don't think enough is done in that regard to leave just the situation the way it is, or leave it up to stupid LinkedIn, which is the worst site on the internet. I think there's a lot more that we could do. I mean, I definitely empathize, and in practice, to be practical about it, recruitment agencies I've benefited a lot from. They are useful. They do serve a function, but I don't have to be that happy about any of it. And I lack the imagination in this regard to actually have anything super constructive to offer as what would be the replacement, other than, I think, something that's disincentivized away from profit and a little more focused on improving the health, welfare, and quality of professional lives of working class citizens in a country would be great. So for that reason, my verdict on placement agencies are going to be that they're bullshit. The rare bullshit verdict from me. Bullshit.
He didn't go one way or the other.
I think they're bullshit.
I thought he was gonna go bad, and if he had, I would have been like, God damn it, Crofton, you should have gone bad too. But now we're both.
Yeah, this is a bit of an interesting one in some ways. I've meandered through my head on this, and it's the whole what would the world be better like if it was like this? It would be better, but let's focus on the way it is now. And I would just be start by not. I said it a little bit, deluding ourselves that any employer gives a shit about any employee. We know that's not true. Everybody knows that's not true. Your employers spend a lot of money and effort making you think it is true, but it's not. The only reason an employer ever gave a shit about anyone was because they needed you to perform a function, and later because you had a union that said, F you, employer, we're withholding our labor. So it's that's the system. A union is the only thing that has made any employer pretend to care about employees, and frankly, that's what they do. They pretend to care about you. So that's the way it all is. That all sucks. I hate all of that. I wish it wasn't like that. It could be better. It will be better one day. It's not better now. So in all that context, my experience has been very limited with these things, has been when I'm in that position, and it's been rare for me because I've been lucky. There's been times where I felt like I've had my family to fall back on for a little bit of support. I'm now married. I can. My wife has a good job. I could take my time to find a job. I have that privilege, and that's a huge privilege. But there's been a window in my life where I was on my own. My family did not have resources to help me, and I felt like fucking alone with the floor falling out from under me, where I needed. And this is what it felt like: safe harbor somewhere, just a goddamn job. It wasn't a job I wanted. I don't want any job, right? I needed any job. I didn't care what it was. And I felt like it was scrambling because I needed a paycheck soon. And I was like, oh, these jobs that are good are going to take a while. I need something now. You go into a placement agency. They're like, hey, happy to see you here. Well, let's see what we have. Maybe we can get you working soon. It felt like safe harbor, right? In the shittiness, which is the employment market that we live in. It is shitty when you're looking for a job. Everyone knows it's super stressful. And at least when I've gone into a placement agency, they make it seem like, oh, we'll try to get you something. And when I've been in that situation, what I've been looking for is a paycheck to get food on my table and me to stop being homeless, to give me the peace of mind to then go and find a better job, to have that. So I was like, okay, look, they all suck. All your points are good. I agree with them all. But in the context of what these things are, I think that they're kind of good. They're a landing place for people in need who are looking to just get through to the next thing. So I'm saying good. They're good.
Really?
And I can't believe
this?
I'm saying that just to be fair, but that's where
you said good for
I
oh
said
my god.
Good for placement agencies.
That
I'll take a.
If it was
something wrong with this is broken.
Listen, if the topic was state of the job market and capitalism, I'd be like bad. But that's
I'll
not
take
what it was.
I'll take 25% of that verdict, Mike. So that brings you to bullshit, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh, you
Well,
took a
if you're
25% cut.
feeding me for now, that's fine.
well. Also, now we're replacing you with Scott Johnson. It was great you working with our organization. You get no health benefits.
Actually,
don't
Let's face
don't
it,
hit
just
your
found
ass on
out-
the way out.
I just
Let's
found.
face it, this is the shitty job of podcast. Scott Johnson's not going to work here. You're going to get some
Yeah,
schmuck with no podcast.
I just found out what the fee was going to be for the recruiter to get Scott Johnson in here.
Yeah, you're not going to get your like.
Are you
LinkedIn
willing
guy
to
with
put
the
a
awesome,
second
with the
mortgage
awesome
on your-
resume, Croft, and you're going to get Joe Schmuck being like, "I know how to speak."
I was gonna say I was gonna ask you, can you put a second mortgage on your house so that we get Scott Johnson? But then Mike talked over me twice, and so I'm gonna go to Money Mart and take out a loan, and we're gonna hire Scott Johnson. So Michael, stop talking over me, goddamn. All right. So if you want to tell us, if you want to talk over us, or tell us how much you agree with Bo that LinkedIn is like ate vomit, and then vomited vomit, and then made a website, and then shit on the website and published it, you can do that by emailing us at goodbadbull at
I didn't enjoy it if
gmail.com.
someone did.
Goodbadbull at gmail.com. Please send us your letters, especially if they're about LinkedIn. Good or bad. We'll take both. I know Crofton, I'm really hurting his feelings with this. He loves LinkedIn. If you had to
I
choose
don't
between
even
LinkedIn
have a
and
LinkedIn
pizza,
account, but I really should.
if you had to choose between LinkedIn and pizza, you'd go with LinkedIn. So wait, is that true?
No, it's
Oh.
not true at all.
You just seem visibly like upset every time I say like LinkedIn.
It's just because
it's like a
last time you
shriveled
guys
penis
shat
of
on
websites.
Facebook and you literally said it's the worst website on the internet. Now you're shitting on LinkedIn.
What
you're
is?
saying it's the same thing. Facebook.
Yeah,
So now
Facebook
you're
sucks, Croft.
Yeah, well,
No.
hang on,
Oh,
hang on.
I hate
Let me clarify. Okay, I see. There's a logical problem. Let's say you told me you have to choose one of the two sites or die to be fully invested in LinkedIn, Facebook, or death. Those are your choices.
I choose Sweet
What?
Death.
I
What
choose.
kind of
I would
website?
choose Facebook. I would choose Facebook.
No, I'd probably choose Facebook.
You heard it here first, guys. Bo is a Facebook lover, so is Mike. I agree. Facebook's a great site.
You're such a shill. Look at this bastard. Such a privileged
Man,
shill.
I'll let Bo do his cleanup duties here. He's got to do.
All right. Anyway, so if you want to do your cleanup duties, email us at goodbadbull@gmail.com. If you want to find out more about the show, you're listening to this, but somehow don't know where you got it from, that's goodbadbull.com. There you will find links to subscribe on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. We are on Facebook, so you can like our page there if you like. We just post when there's new episodes. It's basically spam, but that's where you get to find out when new episodes go live, so that's the service it offers. Now, and I would say our Twitter account isn't spam because there's great pictures of us that we post every week now, so it's a photo thing. It's like we're Insta. Anyways, what's next on the list? Oh, yes, we have patrons, and we have a ton of new patrons, actually. There's a ton of new listeners, so welcome, new listeners. And for anyone wanting to chip in and help out the show, we have a page up at patreon.com. That's patreon.com/goodbadbull. And there you can chip in $1 a month, help us pay for server costs, keep this sweet show on the internet free, and, well, not free for you, but free for others. And yeah, just go there and sign up. I'd like to thank all the people who signed up recently. I don't have the list in front of me, but thank you. One of them was my sister. So Amanda, if you're listening, that is amazing.
Finally.
She's been a listener since like episode 1. She loves her show. You can actually use Facebook on our goodbadbull.com site to comment on shows, and she's put some lengthy comments in there, which I encourage listeners and you both to read on some recent episodes.
It's
did
true.
read
Yeah,
good
they're
comments.
good. I tried to reply, but then it didn't work.
Yeah.
I can't. I won't use Facebook, so I can.
We should
I
still be able to
hate
see
you.
them even though you're not logged in. All right. That covers like the thank yous, I think, for the most part. Goodbadbull.com. It's all there. All you got to do to subscribe to the show is goodbadbull.com. Scroll down and click the link that says subscribe on iTunes or Google Play. All right. We also have personal social media presences in spite of all of our kind of negativity that we just displayed towards it. So I'm at Bo Schwartz on the internet, Crofton. But our listeners want to find out more about you and where to follow you on your Instas and stuff. Where can they do that?
They can follow me in my well-placed tweets at Crofton Steers on Twitter.
Nice. And always with the pun. 205 Twitter puns. Always working the topic into his call out. That's a
more
dedicated
followers
man.
than I have.
And also, Michael, if our listeners want to find out more about you, where can they find you?
They can find a lack of presence on Twitter of me at ML Hodgins. There's an occasional tweet. It's like an Easter egg. You follow long enough, you might see a rare random tweet from me and be like, "Whoa, look, he said nothing of value."
Wow, I'm still following this guy. Block.
Like, he tweets so infrequently that sometimes I just retweet him because I'm just so happy to see that he's made a tweet.
Yeah, you'll see a random tweet and everyone will be like, "I thought I blocked that guy, but he just doesn't tweet."
Just sympathy retweet. Hey, I
have a question. Is Patreon the middleman of supporting creative people?
Yeah.
Is it the placement
it's-
agency for online?
It's not a placement agency, but yes, it connects patrons of the arts with
Crofton
artists.
hates middlemen. He said it.
With artists.
I don't like middlemen in general. So I was thinking the other day about
Are you middle management?
we talked about like
himself.
the verdicts and stuff like this on the show. Episode Mike's today threw me for a loop around episode 200, but I was thinking if you could go into science fiction alternate universes of what our idealized worlds would be, maybe based on our verdicts. I was running them through in my mind because I was like, Crofton's would probably end up looking pretty similar to what our current world is now.
Yeah.
With minor variants,
More access to video games.
Minor variances. Mike's would be some sort of socialist paradise where everybody's wearing white uniforms.
Utopia, man.
Yeah, no, whatever. Yeah, sure. And then Bo's, I just had trying to consolidate all his verdicts. I just
it's just Blade Runner 2049. You just need to go watch that, and that's Bo's world he wants to live in.
That's well, potentially Bo
Like a
lives
shit pile with awesome online stuff.
That's true.
Bo lives in the world of Blade Runner. Yeah, maybe. I just imagine going into Bo's world and hearing random screaming in the background from people. Oh my god! And you're like, oh geez.
Actually, you know what I think it would be? Bo's would be Blade Runner 2049. Crofton's would be basically the same, the current world, which kind of blows and shows his lack of vision. And mine would probably be Star Trek minus the outer space fighting with aliens. The part where they're at Earth and everyone's like la la la, and everyone sort of just works at a great job that they're passionate about, and there's no money, and everyone gets along and knows about science. I would be the Star Trek.
And then that's at the beginning of the movie before the aliens arrive and wipe them all out.
And to be clear, it would be the Star Trek: The Next Generation on Earth.
Just to be fair, I would be Captain Kirk.
Man, what's going on with you and Star Trek? We ended 2 episodes ago because I'm doing post on our shows. We also ended a show talking about Star Trek.
It's relevant, man.
I feel like you really want to watch Discovery, but for some reason you're refusing.
Look,
there's a
we
part
all
of your
walk around
brain.
with tricorders in our pockets now.
Okay.
It's because of Star Trek that we have it, not Steve Jobs. He just saw Star Trek and said, "I want that thing."
Yeah.
Tricorders.
Tricorders look aren't they the big
The problem with the cell phones we have right now is we can't scan rock and determine its density and its organic or mineral makeup, its chemical
you need to
makeup.
upgrade.
There'll soon be an app for that, Bo.
Yeah. So once we can start scanning anything and determine what kind of life form it is and what its biological, all the information's right there. We're still not there yet, so let's not jump to conclusions.
It would just be funny. That's one thing they miss in Star Trek was social media stuff where they'd scan a rock and then post it to Facebook look, I'm on series 12, y'all. Just found some sweet rock sample. And upload it and everyone puts a meme of the rock smashing. There's memes everywhere. and then you'd be like, "Man, Star Trek sucks." That's what you think.
It's funny
I
'cause
like
you would
that
be
that was your
Bones.
idea of a meme. It's too rough.
I've seen the fucking gifs you post, Bo. It's just some repetitive crap over it, you know.
Oh,
So,
that's a
yeah,
good gift.
Bo would be maybe Scotty. You would be Bones, and I would be Kirk. I don't know who's Spock.
In the original Star Trek.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure. I'd be Bones.
it makes sense that you're
He's
Bones.
the best.
The most curmudgeon-y.
Uh,
I'm sure we're off the air.
Well,
yeah,
we're not
probably.
off
I'm
the
trying
air,
to
but
think. Next
yeah.
generation.
By the way, we have to have a
Obi
meeting.
Worf.
We have to have a meeting about how we're ending the show. It's taking me a long time to find the perfect spot, and maybe
I think that one was gold.
I've done it.
Man.
I've done it 200 times, and I don't want to. I like an easier place to just edit.
You know what?
Don't
I feel
mind, if you please.
I feel that's a reasonable ask, Bo. I'm sure that.
And
Yeah,
I don't even care. We don't have to take turns. The same person can do the sign off every week. You know, we don't have to.
I also wait. Okay, so Next Generation. Crofton's Geordi
Michael,
LaForge.
focus.
Bo is Worf, and I think I'm either Data or Picard, probably.
Wait, I'm Geordi LaForge?
Yeah, the kind of like bland middle guy.
What? No, Geordi wasn't he like a tech engineer, the lead engineer, like the Scotty
Most boring
role?
character on that show. Let's face it.
No, whoa.
He had
First
a more
off,
compelling character on Reading Rainbow, Crofton.
Geordi wasn't the most boring, was he?
Who was? Well, who do you think's more boring? Barkley? Okay, you're Barkley.
Jordy's not boring. He's just straight laced.
Barkley. I dug deep for that one.
Yeah, I don't even
Barkley,
get it.
Ensign Broccoli is not Crofton.
I'd be Riker, right?
No.
He's the Kirk.
No, you're not suave enough to be Riker.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who he's. I don't think he's like anyone on there.
I'm
I
Wesley
know.
Crusher.
No. He's the guy in the teleporter room. What's his name?
Oh yes, the Irish dude.
Yeah, like
Paul-
he's just
His
yeah.
name.
The one that went to Deep Space Nine there. What's his name? God damn it.
chat room. Help us out.
O'Brien.
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 God, the
Can't
fact
believe
that I
Crofton
got
got
there
that.
first.
O'Brien.
I don't remember. His first name was Chief, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chief O'Brien.
He's married to Keiko and Keiko. What's her name?
Something like
she's
that.
pretty attractive.
So wait,
You
so if
score- you
I'm
end up pretty
O'Brien,
good.
who's Hodgins?
Data.
Hodgins? No.
Or
Oh
probably
yeah, you're
Picard.
Data. No, you're Data. Yeah,
Way
for
too
sure. Okay.
argumentative to be Data. That's not possible. He's cute.
I'm.
He's cute.
Oh yes, I'd be cute.
He's like, oh yeah, blah 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 blah. I know more than you. Blah 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 blah. You think you're so
Yeah.
smart? Blah blah blah. And then he's like,
Wait, so I'm like the Chief O'Brien, and he's an all-powerful
he's-
being of the universe.
and
I don't
he's cute.
understand.
Sounds right.
I
Yeah.
managed the teleporter.
he's all
Only in
powerful
New-
to humanity, but in the Q continuum, he's not the most powerful.
Yeah, he's an outcast.
Yeah.
Was there anybody who was like sarcastic remarks on the Next Generation?
Not really. Riker was probably the closest, I'd say.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
Riker.
He was pretty.
You're not
straight-laced,
Riker.
Riker.
There's no way. There's no way, dude. You're O'Brien. This is
I'd say
covered.
Bo's closer to being Riker. I just give him Worf for the.
I'd say I'm not even Riker. Riker.
You're just calling him Riker because he has a beard.
Yeah.
Riker had a beard.
I'm not Riker.
Fuck.
Maybe if you grew a beard, Crofton, you could be one step closer to Riker.
Oh,
But instead, you're one step closer to Wesley.
I think I'm
Apparently,
just Kirk.
O'Brien is Scottish, not Irish. We have a Scotsman in the chat. I'm gonna insult him.
But some of the Irish names have the O too, don't they?
Either way, I can't do a Scottish or an Irish accent, so I guess I'm Riker.
I wish I knew more about the
so
other.
I'm trying to figure
episodes,
out which Star Trek character I am. It's important. I'm probably Deanna Troi.
Actually, you might be Deanna Troy,
Yeah.
but you're too cynical.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think you got to be Worf.
I think he's Worf, man.
Worf like kills a person because of some stupid reason.
But I don't
Yeah,
do things for
he's
honor,
Worf.
do I? I'm not an honor guy.
No, but you're totally a guy who gets stuck in whatever his ways is and won't will
Yeah,
refuse
you get
to
hot under
deviate
the
from
collar.
it, and then
Remember
get
when
hot.
Duras killed his wife and he went over there and killed him with a bat laugh?
Apparently,
See, I'd be
they have-
like
they have-
Picard, who'd be like, Worf, no! and you just put the bat laugh right in his chest.
Scott's been talking about Worf because apparently Klingons have a second set of genitalia, so if you lose, so you lop off your cock, you have a backup one. Because Klingons have backup organs for everything because they fight all the time and they're battle hardened. Right?
That sounds like fan fiction.
No, I think that's canon. I think that's canon.
I refuse to Google Klingon cocks.
Come on, Crofton. You know it's in your
I'll do it.
cookies there.
Why did it doesn't have to be cocks? It could just be penis or what's the Klingon word for penis? Duck lock. The first page that comes up is Worf's penis. Worf's penis.
I hate Star Trek.
Star Trek, of course you would.
That new Star Trek. I'm like, and Seth MacFarlane has some show called The Orville, which is essentially Star Trek, with a couple of jokes. I'm the captain of that ship.
Yeah, this is not
all right, guys, I gotta head out.
All right, is Ivan still up?
You want to leave without
Maybe.
knowing the answer to the penis question?
So I will see you folks later. Thanks for listening.
Wow.
Oh.
He's pulled a Johnson. Frick.
He's gone.
Yeah. All right, well, I am going to work on post. This guy, man, let me tell you, chat room, we were going to do a show today. I'm going to bitch about him on the air because he decided to leave. He can't control me. He said, hey, we can't do a show tonight. Gotta break my brain scan. I was like, okay, that's cool. Makes sense. Then he's like, actually, I can do the show. And we all said, all right, 8:30. But I got to eat. I'm strapped for time.
He had, just context, this was at like 7, so he had like, or no, it was like 6:30 even. He had like 2 hours to eat at this point.
Yeah, but I had plenty of time to eat, but it's just like at 8:10, he's like, all right, I'll be ready in 5, let's go. And I'm like, frick, we were canceled. Stop, get on. And now that he's like, I gotta go, bye. He's just always on his time, and I'm like, just pick the time and stay at the time. All right, and I'm done. It's fine, I love Mike. But that's the way fair. He is. It's like, are we doing this? Okay, let's do this now. Yeah, so.
To be fair, though, Bo, he might have a brain injury.
Yeah. You're going to feel bad if he's got a...
Well, like his whole time scheduling thing. But you know what his time scheduling thing is? Like his dad. That's what it is. You know Mr. H.
I know, he's like, but it makes me scared because what's it going to be like in 20 years?
Like Mr. H.
Damn it. Anyway, that means I'm going to be like
now
Mr.
we're inside talk. See, chat room, we all know about Mike's dad, and he's quite the character. Yeah, and Mike is going to one day become him. Yeah. If he lives that long due to brain stuff.
I think same with us, too. I don't know your dad. I didn't know your dad very well, so I can't compare you. And I don't think you knew Mr. Schwartz very well, but...
One thing you can know is that I am working pretty much the exact same job as my dad in the exact same place that he worked. So, I mean,
do you ever have those moments of like, shit?
Yeah, all the time.
Oh.
Anyway, I will leave you, chat room.
As we're going to hang up the call. Thank you so much, Monica, for moderating our chat. I see you, Shen Lejang, Dread Pirate Romy. Thanks so much for hanging out. We love that you came to watch. I'll be posting episodes soon, I promise. There'll be plenty of episodes while I'm gone to BlizzCon. All right, bye-bye.
When are you going to BlizzCon?
November